Now, this session will be recorded and will be sent to you, to the participants. Hello once again. My name is Michael Lee from the Suprema Tech Support team. And today we're going to go through the BioStar 2 device SDK, which is the SDK where you can develop your own functions with the device. As you may know, but I will show you it again. If you access to kb.supremainc.com, you can access to our knowledge base, and here there's the page for the BioStar 2 device SDK, and in here there's all the manual inside. You can get a short quick information about the BioStar 2 SDK. Now the SDK, the package looks like this. The document, it's actually on the wiki here. We don't provide any offline documents. We have header files for C++, and in the library we have the DLLs for Linux and Windows, both for 64 bits and 32 bits. The example code, it says C++, but we haven't started the C++. We have a example code in C#. If you have received the latest SDK, the version 2.2.1, you have seen a lot of examples inside here. As you can see, currently the BioStar 2 device SDK only supports C++ and C#. And if you want to use Java or Delphi or any other languages, you'll have to develop your own glue code to do the marshalling. This is actually our role to provide, but because due to all these schedules, the support of the other language is getting quite late. But maybe in the future, a few more languages could be added. But currently, for now, it's C# and C++. This is the basic workflow. You can refer to the page. For the short explanation, if you have been using our BioStar 1 SDK, you might be quite familiar. We had several functions for one feature. So let's say if we are sending a user, if we are enrolling a user, there was a separate different structures for the user. There were different functions per device on enrolling the user. If you can see here for the biostation, D station, X station. So even just if you want to just enroll one user, you had to have a lot of codes for each device, and you had to use the if and else if and run the codes depending on the device type. Now in BioStar 2 SDK, all these structures, all the functions are unified. So you just have to use one type of the function. There's only one function for enrollment, and it doesn't get different per device. Even if a new device gets added. For example, the biostation L2 was released quite recently, but still there's no problem using that device with our SDK without changing any kind of code. You just have to add that device type when you're adding. It's more convenient because in BioStar 1 SDK you had to control all the handles for the connection with the device. But now the BioStar 2 SDK, you just have to allocate the context, and inside the context, it will do all the hardware for you on the network connection. So you just have to use the device ID, not the handle. It's also thread safe. It's flexible because, as I said, there's only one structure, one function for one feature. So then, even if a new device is added, there's not much that much that you have to change inside the code. Now, if I will, there's the basic how to start in C#. I will go through this. It might be a very easy part for you if you are a developer, but just to show you the idea, I'll create a project BioStar 2 SDK test. Now what you have to do is first I'll show you how the SDK package looks like. Now this is the current SDK, the 2.2.1 released on June the 2nd. If you have an older version, please ask your distributor or sales representative in Suprema to send you the latest. There wasn't any changes between the release when there are only date changes, but the example codes were modified. Small minor changes if there was any kind of a bug. So inside you can see there's no document, it's in wiki. There's the example code for the C#, which I will show you later. You have the header files here, the library here. So for now I will copy the library file and place it into my project folder here. Now after that, you will have to add this string to the build events. So if you right click your solution, the project, you can go to the properties, and from here you will have build events. Just copy and paste it and save it. We'll close. After that, I will change the platform to a 64-bit platform, since my PC that I'm working with is a 64-bit, has a 64-bit operating system. After that, if you go inside the examples, you'll see plenty of files inside this the common folder. Now the SF API, the SF enum, SF struct are the three core files that you will need to develop using our SDK. It has the APIs in here, enums inside here, and the structures inside here. The unit test and util file is our SDK developer kind of made some functions, built some utilities that you can use. But for today, I'm just going to use these three files. I'm going to copy them into my project folder, and I'm going to add them. As you may know, you can just add it by using the selecting here from the existing item, or you can just easily drag and drop, and they'll be added. Now from here, you just have to use the Suprema. This is what you have to use for the SDK. Some demos that I'm going to show you needs the interop services. Now, this is the code that I've worked. It's very simple code. For example, I'll just copy and paste. So you can see this is a function called BS2 version. Let's go to the manual and look into this function. So if you see, it just gets the version of the SDK. There's no it returns the SDK version information. Once using the SDK, first you have to allocate the SDK context, and next you will have to initialize. This is the only function that will give you any return values before you do any kind of that. It will show you the version of the SDK. Now, if I run this code, maybe oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. You have to copy this code. Sorry. Inside it's divided in Linux and Windows. It has to be like this. Inside library there's 64 and 86. Now if I run, you'll see the SDK version printed out here, 2.2.1. Now as I said before, if you're trying to develop anything from our SDK, first you have to allocate the context. You can see this function here. It creates a context that controls and manages the device. The device management context manages and supervises the network connection status of the connected device and is responsible for calling the API provided by the SDK. So this is the first function that you have to call. So if you see here, this is the code for allocating the context, just returning if it has failed, if it still remains as 0. Now let's add a message. BS2 allocate context success. So if I run this code, you'll see that it succeeded on allocating the context. Now once you allocate the context, the next step is to initialize the SDK. As this. Those who are familiar with the BioStar 1 SDK, you normally use just an int teaser for the result, and BS SDK, BS init. Like this. It was like this. Now the result is using just the you just have to define it as a BS2 error code and use this API dot and initialize, and you can use the context from here above that has been allocated, and then let's see, let's add a BS2 initialize success. Now if I run this code, you'll see that the allocating context and initializing has been done successfully. Now, once you allocate the context, SDK context, and then you initialize the context, now you can do whatever you want, but normally the first step will be adding the device and connecting the device. There are two types of ways to do that. If you go to our communication API, you can see search devices through the subnet, and you can connect the device through the device ID. So normally it is used by search devices and get the information of those devices and use the device ID to connect the devices, or you can just add the device by using the IP of the device. In this sample, I have created code connecting the device directly using the IP. You have to have the IP address and the port, and once you connect the device using the IP, you'll get the device ID. So you'll have to find the device ID. This is actually 16BK. No. Let's just leave it. Now you can the port is the default port. It's 51211. Now all the BioStar 2 devices uses the same port. In BioStar 1, the station devices, BioStation, BioStation T2, X Station, Face Station, they used the port 1470. BioEntry Plus, BioEntry W, BioLightNet, XPass, XPass Slim, XPass S2, they use the port 1471. Now it's only, and if you're using server mode, it was 1480. Now we only have 2 ports, if you can see here. Let's peek the definition. The device port is 51211. The TCP server port is default by 51212. So the port is set as 51211. IP address, I'll check my device. It's 233, but this device has been connected to my BioStar 2 server, so I'll have to delete the device first, just for sure. Now, if the device is connected, I'll get the device ID that says it got connected. You can see here, the device 5468325886 device has been connected. Now, once it's connected, you can see we can do a lot of things actually, and actually inside our example code there are a lot of examples that you can use. I will just like to show you the device info using this code. Now here, I defined a structure bs2 simple device info as device info, and using the bs2 get device info. If we go to the manual in the device API, get device info here, you can see this is the type of the declaration, the definition of the function. It gets the device ID, type, network information, and configuration. And if you see this structure here, you can see it gives you the ID, the device type, the connection mode, IP address, port, and many other informations that you might need to use. In this code, I'm just gonna get the device type, and I will show you the maximum number of the user. For BioStation 2, it's 500,000, so it will appear as 500,000. Let's see. So you can see it has been connected. The device type is BioStation 2, which is the device that I'm using right now. The maximum number of user for this device is 500,000. So this is just a simple example of how to use this function. I have already demonstrated this yesterday, and also we had a question from a customer that the time of the device, when there's a function where you can get the time of the device. You can see here, get device time, but they said that the time isn't correct, so I had to have a look. And as you may know, in the BioStation 2 or the other devices, you can set a time zone for that device. So the time itself inside is always runs as UTC0, the GMT time, the GMT, and it adds that offset of the time zone, and it will display the time, the current time that you have set on the display. But I will show you the difference from here. Let's go to this code. First, I will show you the time zone that is set. It has to use the get system config, the bs2 get system config function here. So I made a structure, and let's go to bs2 get system config. It's here. Very simple. You just have to, the parameters are context, the device ID, and the configuration that you're going to return. So here there's a time zone. So if I run this code, it will show you the time zone of the device is 32,400. Now 32,400 for time zone, this is in seconds. If you see here in the manual, it says represents standard time zone in seconds. So 32,400 divided by 3600, which is 1 hour in seconds, you'll get 9. In Korea right now, we use the UTC plus 9 time zone. So this is the correct time zone that I've set. Now, after that, let's try to get the time of the device. Now, first, I will show you what happens if I just use these codes. So I have defined a getTime variable. The reason why it's in integer 32 bits, it's the time that we use inside device. It's Unix timestamp, which is the seconds that has passed from the year 1970, January 1st. So it will give you the results in seconds. Let's go one by one here. So I'm running it in a debugging mode. So let's go. So once I go, the result is VSSDK success. So I successfully called the function. Now, if you see the getTime, it's in numbers like this, and then this is the seconds that has passed from this 1970 January 1st. So I'll just have to change that time to the format that we normally see. And if you can see, it says it's the 23rd of June, 10 p.m. 5 minutes before 10 and a half. But if you see here down here, it's AM, 24th of June, 7 a.m. So if you can calculate, there's a 9-hour difference here, which is not correct. But in my BioStation 2, I'm getting the correct time. The reason is that when you calculate the time, you just can't use the time that you got from the VS2 get device time. If you live in this time zone, yes, you can just use this. But you have to add that offset from the time zone, which was 32,400 that in seconds, to the current time. Then you'll get the exact time. So if I run this code, you'll see without the time zone, it will show the UTC0 time. The code that I added the time zone will show the exact time of now. So it seems very correct. So maybe if you have to use the time of the device, then you can refer to this sample. As I shown you before, there are two types of adding the device. The code that I just used was connecting a device just using the IP directly. Now if I run this sample, this is the example code that is included inside our SDK package. The SDK developer has developed these codes. Now you can see there are two options: connect to device via IP and search and connect devices. The method I used was number 2. Now let's try the number 1. As you can see, it's trying to broadcast, sends the UDP package broadcast to the same network. And after these, so these lines were returned by the callback function. After that, it will print out the device info using this. So you get the ID of the device. This is the index, the type of the device, the connection mode, the IP, and port. And you can just select the index. So this was my device, the one that ends with 32586, which the index is 6, and I'll get connected using from this device. So you can refer to our example code, which has most of the functions that are listed. If you can see here, Well, this is an example code of the server matching, which is the server matching is a method that when a person scans their finger to our device, the device doesn't do the matching. It will send that template, the scan template, to the server, and the server will match that template with the store template, and it will return the results. Now, for example, you will hear a sound which is a sound when I fail on authentication. Now I'll enroll a user from here. This is our server matching example. Maybe use this. The default valid. I will put this user is valid until this time. I'm not going to use a private card auth mode. The security level will be default. No, no, and no, and no. I will not register a card. I will register a finger. Now place my finger. This is not a duress finger. The access group is just default. Now I enrolled the user, but still, if you hear it, you'll hear the sound of the failed authentication. The reason is the user enrollment that I just did, it doesn't get enrolled inside the device. It enrolls a user inside the DB file. You will find it inside oh no, it's not in here, sorry. So you'll find it inside the folder. Sorry, I forgot the where. Oh no, actually, I think in here there's the server matching control release. Yes, the user DB. It gets stored inside this database file. So it's not inside the device. But if I start using the start server matching. Now the server matching has started. Now if I place my finger, you'll hear the sound, right? And you'll see that the server responded with status BSSDK success, which means that this user has been authenticated, and it will give you back the user ID here. So just showing you a quick example using our SDK. But the server matching, if you just have the BioStar 2 device SDK, you will not be able to use it. You will have to have the image SDK or license, or the BioMini SDK license, to use this. So if you want to use the server matching method, please contact your sales representative for the license. Just for one more, I'll show you one more. Let's say I'll show you the logs. I'll connect it the same way that I did. This time it seems that the index has changed to, oh no, it's still the same, 6. Now I can get logs. If you don't know the last log ID, you can just put 0. I'll just want 10 logs. Then I'll get the last 10 logs of the device inside. Now if I use the monitoring log, this is the real-time monitoring log. So if I try to authenticate, I failed, and it will give you the device ID, timestamp, the event ID, which is the index of the events, event code, identify, fail, finger. User ID unknown because they don't know which user has failed. So there are a lot of examples that you can use inside our code. So basically, this is the very simple uh, review on the BioStar 2 device SDK. Um, Now, since we have some time, I would like to get to some questions of you if you have any. So, if you have any questions, please can you ask me on the chat? Yes, hello. Mm. Um, any questions? No, the BioStar 2, the BioStar 2 SDK only supports devices that are supported by BioStar 2. So it has to have the firmware for the BioStar 2. So there are devices such as BioEntry Plus, BioEntry W, XPath, XPath S2, the BioLiteNet that supports both BioStar 1 and BioStar 2. But it has to, so even those devices, it has to have the BioStar 2 firmware. So you can only use BioStar 2 supported devices. If you want to use the old devices such as BioStation, XStation, things like that, you'll have to use both SDKs. Okay, do you have any other questions? Okay, right now I will stop the recording.